Hello everyone. Today we are going to see how we can use list view. When we click on a list view item, how we can redirect it to some other activity, open some other page. So we'll just go ahead with some basic concepts of list view today. So this is the output that like how we are going to work on it. This is my first activity. If I click on this button over here, then I should be able to load a list view like this. Further, suppose in this list, if I click on dog, then I should be redirected to the activity where I can open like the activity where I have inserted a dog picture. If I go back to the list view and if I click on cat, then I should be able to open where I can open the activity where I have inserted the picture of a cat. Okay, and hence forward for other uh, like pets too. So this is what we are going to do today. So let us go ahead and start how we can go ahead with this. So first of all, what we are going to do over here is we'll require one main activity on clicking on which I should be able to load the list view in my next page. And then whenever I'm clicking on any list item, I should be able to redirect it to that particular activity. So for that purpose, the first thing that I'm going to do over here is, that's in my main activity, I'm going to create a button, a simple button over here. Apply my constraints. I'll split my view. I'll go to the coding window. Here I'm going to change my button ID to button click, and on the text I'm going to have click here to load the list. We'll just try to keep it as simple as possible. That's it. Our first UI screen is done. Okay. Once this is done, so what I want is if someone is clicking on this activity on this button, I should be able to redirect it to the next activity. So for that, we are going to create a new activity first. So I'm going to name this as my second activity, or just let us change the name to target activity, or say list activity. Okay. I'll also create a new XML file for my list activity. So my list activity XML file is there. Okay, over here in my XML file of list activity, I'm just simply going to drag a list view. That's it. So I'm done with this. Okay, now in main activity code, I'm going to write the code for my button. So I have created a button in my main activity, right? So I'm first of all going to declare a button. So button, say button, and what I want is on button dot set. Oh, I didn't do the find view by ID, so we need to give a reference to, right, the XML reference. So I'll say call this over here find view by ID, r.id dot, and what is the name that we had given, button click. So I'm giving the same name, and after this I'm going to typecast it. If you're getting this error, please suppress this. Okay, we are done with this. Now I want a on click listener, so I'm going to say button dot set on click listener, new space, view dot on click listener. On click of button, I just want to start the intent, so I want to go to the next activity. So I'm going to write over here intent I is equal to new intent. Inside intent, what do we write? The current activity and the target activity. So my current activity is main activity dot this. My target activity is list activity dot class. And after this, what I want to do is I just want to start the new activity. So I'll say over here start activity I. And we are done with this coding part. Okay, so we are done with this. Now we'll go to our another part, that is this list activity part. So I'll go over here for my list view. Before that, I'll just copy paste a few things from just copy paste a few things from here. I don't require this, and I don't require this. Okay, we're all good to go. In the list activity in my XML file, I'll just give an ID over here as well. So let us call this as list activity. We are getting the error over here since we haven't given the constraints. We'll do that. Okay. Here I'll change this to list activity. This is list activity. Okay, so we are all set with our list activity now. Okay, now what I want over here is that first of all, on the click of button, a list should be loaded over here. So for that, what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to declare the list view. We have dragged and dropped it. Now we'll declare it. So I'll declare it over here. I'm going to call this as list view. List view is equal to find view by id. r.id dot, we haven't given any id for the list view still, so I'm going to give an id over here, and let us call it as list view. Okay. So I'll give the same id over here, and for this let us typecast it. Okay, suppress inflated id. Okay, we are done with this. Now what I want is, so if I want to load a list view, I'll basically have to use a adapter. Now here what your adapter does is, or what we are trying to do, so your adapter, this what it does is, it's basically like a kind of a bridge between your UI component and your data source. So the data source that I'm trying to use over here, that is a simple array. Okay, so let us first of all create an array. So I'll just call it as data source only. So that's my data source over here, and oops, what I'm doing, so I'm going to have a string array over here. We'll name it as data source is equal to what type of array do I want over here is, so I want over here like cat, dog, and all these things that I want to load over here. So we'll just write it in this brackets over here. I'll just write it over here. I'll say cat, or we'll call it as dog, cat, rabbit, hen, oh, So this is our data source. Now what did I say is that what are list view, that this is, so we have a UI component over here. What is our UI component over here? So the list view is the UI component. This array that we have created, this is our data source. And if I have to load the list view, I have to use an adapter in between. Now what type of data do we have? We have an array, right? So what I'm going to use over here is an array adapter. What this is going to do is, so it's going to act as a bridge between my UI component, and data source. So let us create an array adapter over here. So I'm going to create it in this way, array adapter. Now if you can see over here in bracket, it is taking something called as t. What is t? That is a type. So what type of data do we have over here? We have the string data. So I'm going to write over here string. Let us give our array adapter some name. So I'm just going to call it as pets is equal to new array adapter. Again we'll just write over here string. Okay. Now inside this we have to give certain parameters. So if you can see over here, we are getting the type of parameters that we have to give. The first thing is context. So what is the context that we have? That is main activity dot this. That is our current context. The next thing that we'll have to give is that where do we have to load the data? So we have to load it in the list view. How are we going to write that? So we are going to write it in this way, android dot r dot layout dot simple list item 1, comma. What is the next thing that it requires? So it requires from where is the data coming, or what is the data source. Our data source over here is simply data source. That's it. Oh sorry, our current activity is a list activity. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we are done with our array adapter. Now after this, so we have the UI component, data source and adapter. Now what I want is the adapter which we have created, I want to set set that adapter for the list view. So how I can do that? So list view dot set adapter, and what is the name of the adapter that we have over here? So pets, that's the name we have given. So what we are doing in this step, that is we are setting the adapter. So we are setting the adapter over here. Okay, so yeah, so we are done with this. Now what I want is that on click on each and every, so if I'm clicking on dog, a picture of dog should open. If I'm clicking on cat, picture of cat should open. So how we can go for that? I'll create one more activity for that particular thing. So let us call this as dog activity. Okay, for that I'll create one more XML file, and I'm simply going to call it as dog.xml. Again I'm going to have one more activity, that is going to be my cat activity, and I can have over here one more resource file. So I'm going to call it as cat.xml. Okay, so like this, for each and whatever pets we have written, you can have different activities for this. Now simply in this dog and cat XML, what I want to do is I want to drag a image view, and I want to set the picture of dog and cat over here. So for that, first of all we'll require the images, right? So how do we get the images over here? Before that we'll just write the basic onCreate method over here. So I'll just write this. For dog and cat activity, I'm just going to write this. Set content view. For this it's going to be my dog.xml. Extends app compact activity, And the same thing I'm going to do it even for my cat activity over here. So for this, what is it going to be? The layout is going to be cat. I'll write over here extends. Again, this extends app compat activity and bracket open. So yeah. So we are done with this. So we are done with this. Now what I want is, whenever I'm loading the activity of cat or dog, that particular image should come over here. So for dog, yeah, first of all we'll require the images of dog and cat. So you can go to the folder where you must have saved the images. So I have saved the images over here. I'm just copying it and I'm coming over here to my drawable folder, and I can just simply say paste inside the drawable folder. Okay, right click on the drawable folder and right click paste. And say okay, and we are good to go. So if you can see over here, we have got this cat and dog. Now the error why it is coming, so specifically why I had written this in capital, you should always have it in small case. So I'm just renaming this, otherwise you will be getting an error further. So I'm calling this as cat.jpeg and I'm refactoring this and I'm calling this as say dog picture.jpeg. This is my cat picture.jpeg. So we are good to go ahead with this now. Okay, we are good to go. Now what I want is, I'm going to drag a image view over here in my dog.xml. So this is my dog.xml. I'll click OK for my dog picture. Just get it to your frame. You can set your constraints. The same thing I'm going to do with my cat.xml. So I'm going to drag the image view over here. Select the cat picture, say OK, set it to your frame, and then you can give your constraints as well. So we are done with this. Now the final part is, I'll have to set all the activities in my manifest file. So I'm going to call this over here list activity, close the activity tag. We have the next activity, that is the cat activity, and the next activity that we have over here, that is the dog activity. So we are all set and good to go. We'll just run our application and we'll see if it's working fine now. So I'm running my application. The Gradle is building. It'll just take a few minutes. If you want, you can run it on your actual phone devices. You can just click over here, say pair the devices using Wi-Fi. Just ensure that you have your developer settings on and even Wi-Fi debugging. If you want to connect it with the wire, you can use the USB debugging as well. So we have our app running. I click over here and I can load my list. I click on dog. Oh, we didn't do the main part. So yeah, the UI part we have done, but what I have missed out, that if I'm clicking on the list, something should happen, right? So we didn't write the code for that. So I'll go back over here. So I'll go back over here so where was my that activity? List activity. So for my list activity, what I have to set is item on click listener, which we didn't do. So I'll set over here list view dot set item on click listener, new space adapter view. Okay, now here I'll write, so the positions over here, it starts with 0. So my dog, that will be basically at the position 0. So I'll write over here. Now from where is my position variable can be, it's the input parameter what it's given over here. For some people it can be written as int I long something. So over here, whatever is your variable for the position, you can consider that. I'm saying if my position is equal to 0, then what you can do is uh, declare intent I is equal to new intent, and what is my current activity, that is list activity dot this. What is my target activity, that is dog activity dot class. And then I'm going to start my intent, so I'm going to write away a start activity. Similarly, else if position equal to 1, then I can say the same thing over here, intent I. Just I'm going to change my target activity to cat activity this time. So we are done and all good to go now. We'll just run this app again and see if it's working. So I click over here and I'm able to list my load my list. I'm clicking on dog over here and I can see the picture of dog. I go back, I click on cat and I can see the picture of cat. So this is all about the list view, and on clicking on any of the item on the list view, how you can load the any of the new activity or do any of the task. So this was all for the session today. Thank you so much. We'll meet again in the next session.